a, I had an office in the paper. Ramnath used to live in the same building here in Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg. And one day he came. अरे मैं तुम्हारे इधर बोर्ड लगाऊंगा बाहर बोर्ड लगाऊंगा the commissioner for lost causes. But I am the only one who was dismissed not once but twice from the same paper. Mrs. Gandhi did not realize, the rulers of today do not realize that in the end, nobody will be strong enough to hurt you, but nobody will be strong enough to help you. I'm the son of a civil servant, and it would not be, my father would never even believe that civil servants would not stand up to ministers. But you name the civil servant today. We were talking, and somebody gave the name of one person. Yeah, he's such a rich fellow. He made so much. His capital on this market cap has risen 4 times. So another person, a student of this university who had become a diplomat, he said, "What did you say? He's a rich man?" No, 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 no. He's a poor man with money.
Second edition of the Delhi University Literature Festival, which has been made possible in collaboration with our title partner, Sarayu Trust and Sangam Talks, our venue partner, Sri Ram College of Commerce, supporting partner, CPS Public School and Chintamani, our beverage partner, Coca-Cola, photography partner, Delhi School of Photography, our media partner, Sangam Talks, knowledge partner, Rishihood University, and our exhibition partner, Indian Council of Historical Research. Today, for this session, we have with us a veteran personality who is chiefly known for authoring a copious amount of books, which includes eminent historians, 2 saints, worshipping false gods, and many more. He's proud recipient of Padma Bhushan, Ram Magsaysay Award, and many more for his works in journalism. He served as a Minister for Communications and Information Technology and also as a forward-looking disinvestment minister in the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. He is an expert on subjects of law, politics, and religion. Today, we welcome Arun Shourie ji to engage in a discussion of his book, The Commissioner for Lost Causes, in which he revisits his journalistic feats from mid-1970s till the end of the century. We welcome you, sir, to the stage. To moderate this session, we have with us Ms. Pranita Vishwakarma, who is currently pursuing her PhD in Japanese Studies from Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi.
So I will only have a few questions for Sir now, and we will keep the session very interactive at the end. So keep your questions ready, and we can begin with the session now. And of course, I would like to start with where the book starts, in fact, on Mr. Ramnath Goenka and your experiences with him, because me and most of us here, we weren't even born when he passed away. And we know him today for the Ramnath Goenka Award, in fact, that is given to journalists. So if you can just reflect upon your time with him, sir, and why he called you, in fact, the Commissioner for Lost Causes.
Actually, Ramnathji was a tiger, a great fighter. And he was also a person, a volatile person who could abuse fluently in 13 languages, and he would change his views all the time. But he was his essential quality was as a fighter. And in the press, he was probably the only pillar left standing during the emergency. He used to say that he had known everybody since the Lokmanya's time, and he could talk to all of them on first-term basis, and he had known all the godmen from Sri Raman Maharishi to everyone else, and he could address them on first-name terms. But he gave us the opportunity which nobody else would have given us. And my colleagues in the Indian Express used that opportunity to create a new kind of journalism, and we brought down governments, and I remember by coincidence I had a talk in Ramjas College just the 2 days, or maybe the day after the Babri Masjid was brought down. And I remember because the curfew had been imposed, so it was a feverish time. But at that time, I wrote against reservations, and they were in this very square. There used to be demonstrations about it. So it is a pleasure to be back. And as for the title of the book called The Commissioner for Lost Causes, this book is about my years in the Indian Express. And what happened was that we were doing I had an office in the paper. Ramnath used to live in the same building here in Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg. And one day he came. अरे मैं तुम्हारे इधर बोर्ड लगाऊंगा, बाहर बोर्ड लगाऊंगा, the Commissioner for Lost Causes. So what had happened was that we had been doing a series against the detention of under trials. We had found that there were persons who had been in jail for 14 years awaiting trial, not because they were convicted, but because their trial had not started. And they were very tragic cases. There was a lady in a jail in Bihar who had been in jail, and in jail she had lost her mind. She had gone mad. So she did not know why she is there. The jailer did not know why she is there. So then the jailer wrote to the High Court, Kiji, we don't know why she is here. And the file is not there. So what should we do with her? And she does not know she is mad. So in its great majesty, the High Court said, let the file be traced. Trace kahan se hogi? So there were very tragic cases, and that series led to the release of about 40,000 under trials. And Ramnathji was a very keen litigant, and he would know the judges and he would know the lawyers. So he was very happy that his paper had done things which had forced the courts to give judgments and forced the courts to get the release of order the release of all these prisoners. So that's his happiness in saying, board lagaunga, the Commissioner for Lost Causes. But in this book, I have given many of his Guru mantras also. He would walk with me, "Achha, suno, ab main tumhe Guru mantra sikhata hu." And he would, say something to always remember how to think 10 steps ahead of the other fellow. And he fooled Mrs. Gandhi during the emergency because she had taken over the paper. It had become a government paper, but then how he dismissed their board. She appointed a board. And in the emergency, he got rid of it because she had not paid attention to a point of law which he had paid attention to, but he kept it to himself. So he was a very resourceful fighter and a great pleasure to be working with, but not a kind man. And my distinction from the Indian Express was that he was under great pressure in the end, and then he dismissed me, and then the paper circulation fell by 40% or something, so he called me back, and after that he had lost his, he'd had strokes and lost his awareness, and those persons who were trying to take over the paper, they thought that my friend Gurumurthy and I would be the two obstacles. So they got rid of us first. So I'm the only person. There are three, at that time, there were three editors who had been dismissed from papers. There was George Verghese, dismissed from the Hindustan Times during the emergency. Mr. Pran Chopra, removed from the Statesman. And I was the person removed from the Indian Express. So there were three in the country who had been dismissed from their papers. But I am the only one who was dismissed not once but twice from the same paper.
Okay, so you talked about your work with the court and litigation, sir. So I wanted to bring, the conversation towards that. Courts, and your work with the courts back then, and you write about your work with, and you write about the responsibility that justices have, like judges have, and so I want you to talk a little bit more about that and then bring it to the contemporary setting, sir. From the times of Justice Bhagwati to today, what do you see, in terms of the Indian courts and where we're headed?
Like all other institutions and like all other professions, the, the courts have deteriorated a great deal. The quality of judgments, the independence is hardly there. Law has become completely uncertain because what the outcome will be, now it is not a question of your having the law on your side or the facts on your side, but the judge. And what that judge will do, that also is not clear, because he may receive a suggestion from somebody else. And it is a great tragedy, because that is the last pillar. Us time par bhi, when we used to be in great difficulties, because the Indian Express was always being targeted by the government for all sorts of things. By Mrs. Gandhi, she took over the building. She tried to take over the building. Newsprint nahi mil raha. Emergency mein censor aapka is not releasing your copy, so your paper cannot be printed in time. Cases on Ramnath ji, raids. But Ramnath ji would always say, nahi, abhi courts hain. But you can't say that today. You don't know what the courts will do. Actually, you know what the courts will do. They will do what the government wants them to do. So that is why, but that is the general situation about all institutions. If you take the civil service, if you take even the lawyers who have now earning so much money, if you take journalism, so institutions, professions, if you take the bureaucrats, I'm the son of a civil servant, and it would not be, my father would never even believe that civil servants would not stand up to ministers. But you name the civil servant today, they have become very civil servants. So, similarly about the quality of ministers, there was a time when we had very scholarly ministers. Maulana Azad, Justice Chagla, they were ministers. And so today you have to name the person, number of ministers, name somebody who has read a book in the cabinet. वो रिलीज कर देंगे आपकी बुक, मगर कितनों ने पढ़ी होगी, कितनों ने कितनी किताबें पढ़ी होगी. So that is the general situation, and that is the real danger. See, because the country of the complexity and size of India cannot grow without values in professions, values because the professions are the middle class, and it is the middle class alone which keeps democracy going. But there are no values. If everybody is running after money, then you will see where the honey pot is. You are not going to be worrying yourself about how the parliament is working. The same thing, so values, institutions, there is really a very big change, a change that I could not have imagined 30, 40 years ago. That in just one lifetime we would see this deterioration. And you see, these rulers don't realize, Mrs. Gandhi did not realize, the rulers of today do not realize that in the end, nobody will be strong enough to hurt you, but nobody will be strong enough to help you. That's the problem. And when you drive citizens to a situation in which they say, no use going to the courts, no use going to the legislatures, no use going to the civil servants, then what will they do? either this जैसे झाग बैठती है ये वैसे बैठ जाए, or they will come out on the streets. So that's not a good situation. The answer is in our hands. For instance, on the judiciary, there must be professors of law here, students of law here, but you just see whether the judgments of our courts are being analyzed properly or not. You show me the scholars who are writing in public about really examining the judgments, not just the outcome. Whether whether Shinde has won or Uddhav Thackeray has won. No. What is the judgment? What is the logic? What is the point of law? You and I can do that. This book has some examples of that. So, it is up to us. If each of us just takes up one institution in his lifetime, all right, I will study the working of the Comptroller and Auditor General. Just that, nothing else. बाकी चीज़ें तो प्रोफेशन के लिए करनी है, but ये मैं मिशन के लिए करूँगा. Somebody will study the Rajya Sabha. Harivansh is such a wonderful person. When he was the editor of Prabhat Khabar, he really brought down governments. तो आप जरा एक इंस्टीट्यूशन को लीजिए, एक प्रोफेशन को लीजिए, and you study it in great detail. So I think that would be the way to cure these people. You know, when an American judge comes up for nomination in the Senate, his dossiers are available to the senators, not from the government, but from the American Union for Civil Liberties, from the American Union for such and such thing, because they have analyzed his judgments throughout his career. So we should do that, and you and I can do it. It does not require much expertise.
That was very insightful, sir, especially your suggestions, insights on how to cure the judiciary. Coming to journalists, we were talking about this, how there aren't enough risk takers today. People bringing down governments. If you switch on any news channel today, if you go to print media, English print media, Hindi print media, there aren't as many risk takers, and we were talking about this. So what? And you yourself, you call yourself an accidental journalist because you wanted to come to India and you saw an opportunity and you took that as a journalist. And of course, things have changed a lot too. We were talking about this too, about how in your book you write about this, that there was no typist in your time, so you had to write it by hand and then send it, and then someone would type it in Delhi, and then he would write it in shorthand, type it, then you give it back to you, and then type it again after you made changes. So I wanted to know your, first of all, of course, you can talk about your experience as a journalist, the accidental journalist, but coming to also the contemporary era, how journalism and the cure for journalism. We've got judiciary, but journalism today.
You see, the reason why there are not many risk takers today, or why they are, when you say you switch on any channel and they are just parroting what the government wants them to say, is quite simple. There is a Zulu proverb that these people are supposed to be watchdogs, but the Zulu proverb says that a dog with a bone in his mouth can't bark. And in India, it is the bone in the prospective bone in the mouth. वो आए ना यार, मुझे शायद मिल जाए, तो अभी से खुशामद करने शुरू कर दो. ये जजेस को भी देख लो, आप जो पोस्ट रिटायरमेंट जॉब्स ढूंढते हैं तो कैसे उसके पहले जजमेंट्स देते हैं, तो वही हाल जर्नलिज्म का है. एंड सेकेंडली, दिस बिजनेस, दे आर गेटिंग टू मच मनी. रामनाथ जी से वो छोटी सी मतलब 50 रुपए नहीं मिलते थे एडवर्टीजमेंट के लिए, 50 रुपए. ये उन दिनों डीटीसी की, we did not have this big media and so on. तो होता था कि डीटीसी के बस के पीछे तीन हैंग करते थे, उसके ऊपर आप एडवर्टाइज कर दो, रीड इंडियन एक्सप्रेस. ये बिल्कुल, he will not give 50 rupees. He said, what you people write, that is my advertisement. So अब पैसा इतना मिल रहा है, that you will be then you are owned by money. You don't own the money. You don't want to give up that comfort. So one should really have priorities and the professions should be looked upon. I mean, our passion should be that this is an instrument for us to do something for our country, do something for our people, for something for the dispossessed in India. If it is not that, then of course you see it is. So I remember there was a phrase, a very good. We were talking and somebody gave the name of one person. Yeah, he's such a rich fellow. He made so much. His capital on this market cap has risen 4 times. So another person, a student of this university who had become a diplomat, he said, "What did you say? He's a rich man?" No. He's a poor man with money. So we should not be poor men, poor women. No. Our worth should be in that. And that applies to journalists, that applies to academics, that applies to all our middle class professions. And as far as the journalism is concerned, I think one would be to go into greater detail. You see, actually, we should write off the mainstream media, the so-called mainstream media. It is already not on its way out, it is already out. I don't know, only people who have time to waste are reading those newspapers or seeing those channels. The real work is being done by the alternate, what is today called the alternate media, but which is the main media. And that is being done by very small groups. Very small groups. I was just now, I met a friend here. He has worked for Sucheta Dalal and Devashish Basu in Bombay. And you should read their publication called Money Life. I mean, they are the only ones who are bringing out what the financial institutions and financial regulators are doing. And they're a very small team. Similarly, if you go on Google Article 14, it's a small group of persons who are just following what is happening to fundamental rights. So there are many such publications that have come up. And that's a reason for hope, that just a few of us, 3-4 persons working together, not even necessary to sit together these days because of the improvement in communications, but we follow one subject. Don't be grasshoppers. Follow one service. It's one subject, one issue. But on that, everybody should know that, yes, I can go to this website and I'll get the current and correct information. And independent and well-researched. And that is within the capacity of any of us. Even when we are doing other professions, we can pursue that particular issue to the end. And India is not short of issues. Kashmir, Manipur. But if you want today to know the truth about Kashmir, which paper will you read? But maybe you can say, yes, I will read so and so as an individual who is today writing in X. This particular newspaper or this particular website, because he speaks the truth on Kashmir and he's knowledgeable. So go to alternate media, pursue a few issues, and on those spare no effort at all. ये नहीं कि चलते चलते कुछ कह दिया, नहीं. Who wants opinions? All of us have opinions, we have enough of them. But we need the facts. और facts की अपनी मार होती है. And especially in these times, for anyone to be independent, you must be squeaky clean. If there is the slightest thing that you do wrong, you can be sure that they know, they'll make it their business to find out, and they will press you on that point. Well, हमें ताज्जुब होता है. I tell you, when I first started writing for Mr. Goenka in the Indian Express, and we brought down Mr. I'd done a series on Antule. He was a very powerful chief minister. He was brought down. And what had I discovered? It was only 5 crores. 5 crores. आजकल इनके दांत भी गीले ना हो 5 crore से. So, कि भाई सब मिनिस्टर इन वेस्ट बंगाल कोई पता नहीं उसकी मिस्ट्रेस के घर पर 120 crore पड़े, किसी के फलाने कितने पड़े, इतने पड़े, समझ ही नहीं आता ये कहाँ से आ रहे हैं और इतना पैसा आ रहा है. So naturally your opponent is going to find out, and if you are in the adversarial position as a journalist, then naturally all governments, state and center, will keep an eye out for कि इसकी क्या weakness है, तो उसको ढूंढो और फिर उसको make sure that he knows that we know. Then our independence is gone. So we must be squeaky clean. ये जो होता है ना कि भी ईडी आई और आपने जो है समन्स भेजा और आप नहीं गए, क्यों नहीं गए? अरे 5 बार जाओ और मीडिया को बतला कर जाओ. मेरे पर 4 इंक्वायरीज हुई थी. Just as I am the only person who has been dismissed twice, I am the one person in this hall who has 4 certificates of honesty from the CBI. क्योंकि जब मर्जी बुलाना आप बुलाइए, आप आइए, मैं खुद कॉफी बनाकर आपको दूंगा घर पे, जब जहाँ देखना. And I'll tell you one thing. I was in Ahmedabad for a lecture once, and Mr. B.K. Nehru, a very distinguished civil servant and a cousin of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, was at that time the governor of West Bengal, of Gujarat, sorry. He was the governor in Kashmir, and Mrs. Gandhi, on the advice of wrong people, wanted to dismiss the Farooq Abdullah government and so on, and he said it is wrong, and she removed her own cousin to Gujarat. So he must have heard that I am in Ahmedabad for some lectures. He called me for tea, and we were walking. And he said, "You keep writing about Gandhi. What was so special about him?" I was going to say something. He said, "No, not what you are thinking. First, he was a Gujarati. Very clever. And second, he said, he and that entire generation, they had no price. What a wonderful thing. There was nothing you could pay them. There was no honor which you could give them. There was no post which you could give them. Nothing. Therefore he was independent. And that entire generation. Panditji, 14 years in prison. All of them. So, we must have no price, and everyone must know that we have no price.
Sir, but I hear that a lot of alternative media, they're very scared of these fact checkers, because we're putting in mediums like YouTube. We were talking about it. We met somebody who puts his content on YouTube, and you're saying that that's the future. So can you talk about that, sir? How do you get that legitimacy as a journalist, and if you're like a small person with an alternate channel?
No, but the legitimacy will come over time. In India and all over the world also now, but certainly in India, the word of mouth counts. The governments may suppress anything. But probably we have 1 or 2 billion journeys by train every year. So word of mouth counts. You're sitting in a train, you're talking to somebody. I'll give you an instance. See, yahan, we lived in West Delhi, on West End, near the airport. And so I would come from that, I will drive my car and go to the Indian Express on Bahadur Shah Zafar Road. So one morning, everybody was running down the Nala, jahan wo international youth hostel hai. So I thought maybe some animal has died or something. So I reached the office. And there was a phone. It was from a person in the intelligence bureau who was one of our contacts. He said, "Oi, Sanjay mar gaya." Sanjay Kande, yes, his plane has died. So the first thing I did, I went to Ramnath. He used to be living there in the same building. I opened his door. He said, "Kya hai?" I said, "Ramnath ji, 4th chapter, 9th verse." He said, "Devi gayi?" He said, 4th chapter is in the Gita. He got it once. 4th chapter, 9th verse. That is, yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharat. Whenever evil comes and the good are there, I come back to destroy evil. He at once said, he said, "Devi gayi." He used to call Indira Gandhi Devi. Devi gayi? मैंने कहा जी संजय गया. He got up. And he put his head on the floor. He said, "अबे तुम नहीं मानते अगर भगवान है." So I forget what I was going to tell you about this particular instance. So then anyhow, we wrote about Antule, and Antule fell. He had to resign and so on. And those were, you could pursue that. Nothing could happen to you.
Sir, आपने भगवान की बात की, and we were talking about this even earlier, and there are two things obviously that we connect here: the current establishment and Hinduism itself. And we were talking about it. Where is Hinduism today? Where is it political Hinduism? What are your opinions on these things? That is what we would like to know.
See, I feel that all our Indic traditions, if you take Hinduism of the Upanishads, of Patanjali Sutras, if you take Buddhism, most certainly, probably something about Jainism also, but these traditions are all inner directed, an inner directed search. If you see Ramakrishna Paramhans, Raman Maharishi, it's all inner directed. And the Semitic religions were all, because they were married to the state, they were all outward directed. So unfortunately, now there was an aspect in Hinduism in ritual. So you see, the thing about Hinduism was that yes, there was an aspect in rituals, observances, pilgrimages. These were outward directed. But they were instruments for the inner search. The idol is not something who's going to give you something. It is a way of concentrating your mind, as a mantra is, as a flame is. Concentrating the mind, which is the first step in meditation. Then you blank the mind. So it was all about the inner direction. And now it is all outward. To give you a phrase, just you will see the phrase. If you see a book, wonderful book called India by a lady called Eck, E-C-K, a professor at Harvard. It's about pilgrimages. And she said that India has been defined by the footfall of her pilgrims. So the pilgrimage was a journey of penance, of hardship, so that you would get to know your own mind when it is confronted with hardship. And now that pilgrimage is what? Religious tourism. So that is what is becoming of Hinduism. It will just be a tourism. That's not a good thing. And secondly, it was not married to the state. Because once religion is married to the state, then the power and patronage of the state, nasha hai. फिर religion नहीं रहता. Then religion is an instrument for me to get into the state, and the state is a religion for me to acquire the temples and the mosques. And the third thing that happens is that when you marry it with the state, the patronage and power is so great, and therefore the lust for that state is so great that immediately the fissures start. Pakistan declared itself as an Islamic state. Okay, in the 1950s, they started killing the Ahmadiyas. These fellows are not Muslims. Then Shias. Shias are not Muslims. Then among Sunnis, among the Sunnis, Barelvis are not Muslims. Deobandis are not Muslims. Al-Hadith is not Muslim. In one of the best reports ever written in South Asia by Justice Munir on the killings of Ahmadiyas in 1954 or so, he writes in that he called 24 leaders of Islam in Pakistan at that time and asked them, please define Islam. There was no agreed definition. All of them confirmed that the others, all 23 others, were kafirs. And, and 24 of them, we should have closed it, yes, you think. So, and 24 of them said that yes, Jinnah was a kafir. He would eat pork, he married a Parsi, and so on. So, we've got a warning sign. We should wind up whenever you like.
Since I promised an interactive session, I think I will at least take one question.
Good afternoon, sir. So glad to meet you. My question is that the judges of the Honorable Supreme Court had the same power what they have now and what they had 50 years back. So why their lordships have restrained themselves from judicial activism now?
Because actually it is not the formal power that you have. It is who you are. Constitutions do not depend upon what is written on a piece of paper. It is on those who administer the constitution. Similarly, on the question of law. But if all you are going to do is practice constitutionalism on weekends, every weekend give big lectures on liberty, but in the court, ask questions which may lead people to think you are very independent, right? And give the judgment which the government wants. Then it is not a good thing, you see. It will then, फिर लोग जान जाते हैं, लोग पहचान जाते हैं. So that is the problem. It is the persons, not the law and the formal situation. They'll always find a reason to give this way or that way.
Hope to see you all. And sir, thank you so much. It's an honor to have been the moderator for this session. I feel like it was an honor that was very prematurely bestowed upon me. But nevertheless, I'm so glad that we could have you for our festival.